At first it looked beautiful, faint shimmer in the air, like a curtain of light falling across the sky. People stepped out of their homes, out of their cars, onto balconies and sidewalks to watch it. In cities across Earth, New York, Cairo, Tokyo, Snow Paulo, people stared upward as soft red mist drifted down from the sky. No thunder, no flash. Just a glowing haze that moved slowly like something alive. It floated between buildings, across rivers, over forests. Children laughed, thinking it was some strange new weather event. Journalists filmed it. Social media exploded. Within 10 minutes, the world was watching the phenomenon unfold. And within 15 minutes, the first person collapsed. He was an old man in Paris, sitting in a cafe, sipping coffee, while looking up at the strange red veil in the clouds. His cup fell, his hands trembled, and then he slumped forward, eyes wide open. No scream, no sign, just stillness. Moments later, a woman in São Paulo fell next to her bicycle. In Hong Kong, a teacher dropped her chalk mid-lesson and didn't move again. It spread like a dream, slow and silent. But death followed close behind. Hospitals filled quickly, then overflowed. Emergency lines crashed. Doctors screamed into satellite phones, unable to identify what was killing people. It wasn't a known toxin. It wasn't airborne radiation. It was something else, something new, and it moved faster than anything Earth had ever seen. It didn't come from space debris. It didn't enter through known transport systems. It simply appeared. Within 1 hour, Earth had counted over 500,000 casualties. Within 2 entire cities were going quiet. The skies glowed darker red, and strange winds began swirling across the Pacific. Power plants shut down in random parts of the world. Electronics started flickering. It was as if nature itself had been infected. And yet the governments of Earth didn't know who to blame. There was no terrorist message, no enemy fleet, no explosion. Just a mist and death. Some people thought it was the end of days. Others believed Earth was under alien attack. It deep. In a military research lab under Greenland's ice shelf, one woman found something that changed the story. Dr. Lillian Maris had been studying viral genomes for 20 years. She had seen Ebola, Marburg, enhanced rabies, even early-stage gene-based nanotech experiments. But what she saw under the scope that day was beyond science. It was a virus, yes, but it was too perfect. Cell folded in geometric harmony like it had been built with intention. And worse, it reacted to human tissue in a way no Earth-born virus ever had. It didn't spread to other species. Not to animals, not to plants, only human DNA. That's when she knew. This was made, she whispered, all over the world as. Leaders met in panic. That same conclusion began to form. The virus wasn't natural. It had no origin on Earth. It had no random mutations. It wasn't a product of chance or accident. It had been engineered by a mind that understood human biology better than any Earth scientist ever had. But who? And why? On a moon-sized orbital station cloaked in the far shadow of Jupiter, the answers waited quietly, inside a cold, dark command center filled with screens and floating data clouds. A tall, thin figure stood with 6 eyes, glowing faint blue. Its name was Corin, High Architect of the Zarthus Dominion. And as Earth trembled, Corin watched with calm satisfaction. They were not supposed to last even 1 rotation, Corin said to the others. Blood Fog Variant 7 was crafted specifically for rapid extinction. No pain, no struggle. Just silence. Another alien, short and scaled, with electric green skin, clicked its claws nervously. But the death rate is slowing. Our monitors show regions where infection is fading. Corin frowned. That is not possible. Those Zarthus had spent decades designing blood fog. They studied hundreds of species across dozens of planets. Every weakness in human biology had been accounted for. Every reaction, every immune system pattern. They had predicted total collapse within hours. And yet, some human regions were already showing resistance. It shouldn't have been possible, unless the humans were changing. Back on Earth, deep. In the Colorado mountains, survivors gathered in secret shelters. A pattern had emerged. Some people weren't dying, not just the young or the strong. Random individuals across the globe seemed to resist the virus entirely. Their bodies burned hotter, their cells regenerated faster. Their white blood cells mutated mid-battle, as if learning and adapting in real time. Scientists began collecting samples, and what they found stunned them. The virus wasn't just being resisted, it was being rewritten. Human DNA was pulling pieces of it apart, breaking it down, absorbing parts of its structure, and using them, not just fighting it, learning from it. One boy in Brazil had a blood sample that neutralized the virus in under 30 seconds. A girl in Kenya showed lung tissue stronger than carbon fiber. In Alaska, an elderly man who had once suffered from immune deficiency now had perfect health. Something inside human biology was reacting. Not randomly, not desperately, but with intelligence. As if some deep, ancient survival switch had been flipped. The virus had triggered something that no scientist had ever seen before. Evolution in real time. And the aliens watching from the shadows had no idea. In orbit, one human satellite long, dormant suddenly reactivated. It wasn't military. It wasn't even built for war. It was an old observation satellite used for atmospheric analysis. But its sensors picked up something no one expected. The mist was pulling back, not because the virus was retreating, but because it was being absorbed. On the dark side of Earth's moon, a hidden command post known as Black Station activated its emergency AI. The station had been designed for planetary extinction scenarios. Nuclear war, asteroid impact, global plague. It had never been used, till now. The AI scanned data from Earth's atmosphere and satellite feeds. It ran simulations. It reviewed millions of genetic sequences from hospitals around the globe. And then it paused. There was only one conclusion. The virus was meant to kill, but humans are becoming. More, not all of Earth would survive. The death toll would be massive. But something else had begun. Something the Zarthus had never planned for. The virus had not ended humanity. It had woken it up. And somewhere, buried in Earth's DNA, something ancient had stirred. Something that would soon show the galaxy what humans were truly capable of. Something even the stars would fear. Far beyond the orbit of Pluto, in a cold sector of deep space where no light reached and no signal escaped, the Zarthus Dominion listened. Their hidden observation probes had been tracking Earth's downfall with cold calculation. Infection rate, each collapse, each moment of panic. But now, the numbers had stopped making sense. The death rate wasn't rising anymore. It was slowing down. And not because the virus had finished its work. It was because something was resisting. Inside the control chamber of the Zarthus bioship Black Singularity, 6 alien minds shared. One central link telepathically tethered through a neural web of pure thought. Commander Corrin stood at the center, still and silent, but his mind screamed across the channel. Bloodfog 7 was designed for total species collapse within a single planetary cycle. Mutation resistance should be mathematically impossible. Another mind replied, a scientist drone known as ISIL, who had led the final strains engineering. We calculated for all known evolutionary defenses. We accounted for gene-shifting cytokine storms, lateral immunity chains. Then, explain, Corrin snapped, why we are seeing biological adaptation in real time. On a central display, Earth's infection curve now showed a strange bend. It didn't match any of their models. Some infected zones were reporting spontaneous recovery. Some patients weren't just surviving, they were improving. Blood oxygen levels were rising. Muscle regeneration had increased. Several brain scans showed new neural connections forming. The virus wasn't killing them anymore. It was making them stronger. On Earth. Chaos was giving way to something else: confusion. Cities once buried in emergency sirens and screams had grown quiet. Power grids had been partially restored. Local governments re-established limited communications. And most importantly, small teams of scientists were uncovering a truth that seemed impossible. Human immune systems weren't just resisting blood fog. They were interacting with it. They weren't expelling it as a threat. They were breaking it down, rewiring it. even absorbing parts of it into their genetic code. In a secure lab in northern Canada, Dr. Elsa Muir stared at a sample taken from an infected girl who had survived. Without symptoms, she blinked as the AI processor displayed results. Nanocell adaptation confirmed. The virus had synthetic threads alien in origin, constructed for fast replication. But the girl's blood had digested those threads and rebuilt them into something new. Her immune cells were faster, smarter. She could process oxygen more efficiently than any Olympic athlete. Her reflexes had improved, her skin healed from cuts in seconds. She didn't survive, Dr. Muir whispered. Meanwhile, in a military bunker below the Nevada desert, General Raymond Knox watched the new medical data flood in. Across dozens of nations, underground teams were reporting similar findings. Survivors showed enhanced senses, accelerated learning, faster cognition. The virus had never been defeated. It had simply lost control. It was never meant to be stopped. But humanity had turned it inward, and now Earth's leaders were waking up to a terrifying question. What happens when our species no longer plays by the same rules? Up in orbit, human satellites that had been knocked offline during the early stages of the infection were now coming back online. Some of them, once meant for deep space astronomy, had begun picking up unusual emissions near Saturn's orbit, tiny pulses of radiation, like whispers across the stars. Earth's top cryptographers tried to decode it, and one message stood out, hidden within the static. They weren't supposed to survive. It wasn't human. It wasn't random. It was alien-proof. Someone out there had done this. Someone had tried to end humanity, but instead, they'd created something they never intended. Back aboard the Black Singularity, panic among the Zarthus minds had turned to calculation. Their great weapon had backfired. Corin turned to ISIL again. Release Variant 8. It's not ready. Release it anyway. They must not reach the threshold. The threshold. Sol's mind pulsed in surprise. You believe they could reach phase shift? Corin was silent in the Zarthus Empire. Phase shift was a myth. The idea that a species under extreme stress could undergo instant, large-scale biological transformation, an accelerated leap into a new form of intelligence, strength, or evolution. It had only been observed twice in galactic history. Both times, the result was catastrophic. They were baseline primitives just one cycle ago, Corin said coldly. Now they rewrite viral code inside their own blood. If they cross the threshold, we will not be able to predict what they'll become, so we kill them now. No, Corin said darkly. We study them, and then we crush them completely. But Earth wasn't waiting anymore. In a repurposed mining base in South Africa, engineers, doctors, and survivors worked together under one roof. It had become a hybrid facility, half clinic, half biotech lab. Using survivor blood, they began crafting Counterstrain 1, human-modified virus based on blood fog, but instead of infection, it would heal. Instead of spreading death, it would strengthen recovery. And when they tested it on infected patients, those on the edge of death, it didn't just cure them, it improved them. Earth had done what no one else could. They had taken a biological apocalypse, made it into a blueprint. The first public transmission from Earth's Unified Planetary Science Council came 2 weeks later. Broadcast across open channels. It sent a short message in basic galactic code. To those who tried to erase a Seer weapon failed. We are not what we were. We are becoming something else. Something you cannot stop. Watch, if you dare. The message ended with DNA schematics, flashing in slow sequence. Not a threat, not an act of war, just truth. And it shook the Zarthus Dominion like nothing ever had. In the shadows of space, the hunters had become the hunted, and humanity had taken its first step into something new. They weren't survivors anymore. They were becoming the future. In the beginning, Earth scientists thought it was a fluke, just a lucky immune system response. A random mutation that gave certain people a better chance at surviving the alien virus. But as more data came in from across the planet, samples from rural clinics, hidden shelters, and makeshift labs, it became clear that luck had nothing to do with it. This wasn't a few people resisting. It was a pattern, a change, a shift so deep that it touched the very code of what it meant to be human. At first, it was subtle. Survivors began recovering faster than they should have. Cuts healed in hours instead of days. Breathing returned with unusual strength, as if lungs were drawing in more than just air. White blood cells weren't just destroying the virus, they were learning from it, reshaping themselves, and passing that knowledge to the rest of the body. It wasn't just immunity, it was intelligent adaptation. Dr. Elsa Muir, working out of the converted biolab in Canada, had seen many strange things in her life. She had worked with viral mutations, rogue genetics, and artificial immune systems. But nothing compared to what she saw under her scope now. The virus once feared as humanity's doom was being broken apart and rebuilt inside the body piece by piece into something useful. Not by machines, not by drugs. It's by human DNA itself. It's like the body sees the virus, reads it, and then decides how to use it, she said aloud, even though the room was empty. We aren't just fighting back, we're upgrading. The girl whose blood she had studied, a 10-year-old, from the outskirts of Montreal, was now running twice the speed of a healthy adult. Her bone density had increased, cognitive test scores were above genius level, and she didn't just survive the virus, she absorbed it. All over Earth, similar cases were being reported. A coal miner in India who had been declared dead walked out of a hospital with perfect health and the strength of 3 men. A teenage boy in Nigeria who was partially blind before the infection could now see in complete darkness. A nurse in Los Angeles who had once needed glasses now read distant numbers off hospital monitors with ease. Each survivor seemed to carry a slightly different enhancement. But one thing was clear. They were no longer the same. The virus hadn't killed them. It had forced evolution, and more importantly, it was still spreading, but not as death as transformation. In orbit, Earth's high-altitude satellites captured an alarming sight pulses of energy forming near Jupiter's moons. The Zarthus Dominion had begun deploying new platforms. Second wave was coming. But this time, Earth wouldn't be caught unprepared. Inside Black Station, the secret military outpost buried beneath the lunar surface, General Knox and his newly formed command evolution team watched the data come in. Every mutation, every adaptation, every change was tracked in real time. Earth's AI now ran millions of simulations per minute, predicting how the next phase of transformation would unfold. Knox stared at a hologram of a human DNA strand glowing with alien code stitched through it. "What if we've already changed too much?" he asked. Dr. Kwan, standing next to him, replied calmly, "Then we become something new." Knox narrowed his eyes. "And if they come again?" "Then this time," she said, "we fight on our terms." Across the planet, survivors now called adapts began organizing. Governments that had once collapsed restructured around their abilities. Former medics became war planners. Engineers merged biology with tech. Old borders dissolved as humanity united under one unspoken truth. Earth had been attacked. It had survived. And now it was rising. Cities once broken by infection were now rebuilt in weeks. With help from adapts who could lift steel beams, clear debris, and survive in toxic zones without suits, recovery moved faster than anyone thought possible. The virus hadn't weakened the human race. It had removed its limits. On the far side of the galaxy, Corin of the Zarthus Dominion slammed his clawed hand against the edge of the data table. Reports were now coming in faster than they could process. Earth signal broadcasts showed people flying, running faster than any species should, surviving environmental disasters that should have wiped them out. "They are not humans anymore," hissed one of his scientists. "They are hybrids. They're abominations," another added. But Corin wasn't angry anymore. He was afraid. The virus had been designed as the perfect weapon. It had killed dozens of species in the past. It had erased entire planets. But with Earth, something had gone wrong. Terribly wrong. The virus had not only failed, it had been tamed. And now, Earth had turned the virus into its tool. In South America, an adapt named Leah could control her heart rate at will, regulate her own temperature, and even slow her metabolism to survive in freezing conditions for days. She had once been a biology student. Now, she was the leader of an entire survivor colony, training others like her to master their new abilities. In Northern Europe, an adept engineer discovered she could detect magnetic fields without tools. She guided drones and satellites using nothing but thought and precision movement. She called it bionavigation. And in the ruins of Old Cairo, a blind man healed by the virus led over 300 survivors out of the desert, navigating only by sound, vibration, and instinct. His followers said the virus had given him a sixth sense, said it had only woken what was always inside him. Earth was no longer one world. It was becoming something greater, a network of minds and abilities, shaped by pain, sharpened by survival, and united by change. Back on the Zarthus ship, a silent vote was taken. Should Earth be destroyed? Should another virus be sent? Should a full fleet be launched? The vote came back and decided, because now no one could agree on what Earth even was anymore. Was it a threat, a miracle, or something entirely new? No empire in the galaxy had ever faced a species that evolved during an attack. No virus had ever made its victims stronger. No world had ever turned extinction into evolution, until Earth. And the galaxy was watching as the sun rose, over a world still healing, still changing. The message was clear. The virus had come to destroy humanity, but Earth didn't just fight. Back, its DNA rewrote the future, and the war for survival had become the beginning of something far more dangerous, something the galaxy could never undo. In the cold shadows of a forgotten star system, far beyond the spiral arms of the known galaxy, a great chamber lit up with sharp pulses of red light. This was no public hall. It was a secret room buried under the central fortress of the Zarthus, Dominion's hidden command world. Crex. Ultra few in the galaxy even knew this planet existed. Even fewer had ever seen the room where the Bio-War Council met. And on this day, for the first time in 500 cycles, all 12 seats were filled. The High Lord of the Dominion, Corrin, sat in the center. His 6 glowing eyes flicked over, the holograms swirling before him, streams of data, footage from Earth, infection charts, satellite transmissions. The screens had once shown death, collapse, silence. But now, they showed something no one in the room could explain. The virus had failed. And Earth had not only survived, had changed. The council chamber hummed with nervous whispers through the neural link. Voices tangled with disbelief and hidden fear. Corrin finally raised a hand. The chamber went still. He stood slowly and spoke with cold precision. Blood fog was flawless. You all approved it. You swore its architecture was pure extinction. Yet here we sit, watching a species not only reject it, but weaponize it. I want answers. Across the chamber, the bioengineer Issel, the mind behind Blood Fog Variant 7, leaned forward, his forearms clasped tightly. Their immune response was abnormal, unpredictable. That's not an answer, Corrin growled. Then hear this. Humans possess adaptive potential beyond what we modeled. Their DNA isn't just reactive, it's strategic. It rewrites its own defenses mid-battle. I believe we triggered something deep, something dormant. Another council member hissed. You mean a phase shift? Issel nodded. The room went silent. Phase shift was a legend. Theoretical event, only whispered about in scientific records. A species under extreme survival pressure evolved rapidly in real time, creating a new form of itself. It had only happened once before in known galactic history. Its species had destroyed an empire, then vanished forever. Now, Earth was showing the same signs. We were trying to kill them, Issel said softly, and instead we unlocked them. Corrin turned to the war strategist, a scaled beast named Thural, who had once burned 3 worlds into ash. Thural snarled in frustration. We should burn Earth now. Send the fleet. Wipe it out before it finishes this transformation. But a whisper came from the shadows. And what if they've already finished? It was Voxus, the quiet mind of the council, who rarely spoke. Her voice was calm but sharp. She tapped a claw against a hovering screen, revealing new footage. Earth cities, once in ruin, were glowing with light again. New power sources, new structures. Drone swarms rebuilt what had been lost. But it wasn't just technology, it was people. A man lifted a transport truck with his bare hands. A woman ran across a battlefield faster than the eye could follow. Children solved complex equations meant for quantum machines. These weren't soldiers, these were survivors. And they were already more than human. "We attack now," Thoral insisted, "or we wait until they surpass us." "You speak as if they haven't already," Voxes whispered. "Back on Earth, deep beneath the mountains of Eastern Asia." Earth's new scientific coalition, simply called the Core, had finished mapping what they were calling echo genes. These were the new DNA patterns appearing in survivors' codes that had not existed in the human genome before the infection. Some allowed for rapid muscle recovery. Others seemed to enhance learning or perception. But one strand found in only a few survivors defied all rules of biology. It allowed the body to detect lies. Literal deception, detection through body language, sound waves, even pheromones. A trait that no scientist had ever considered real. It wasn't just biology anymore. It was something else. Quiet theory emerged inside the Core. What if Earth's genetic code had always been waiting for something like this? A threat, a challenge, a reason to rise? And now that it had, there was no going back. In the Biowar Council, panic grew louder with every passing moment. "What if the virus spreads to others?" one asked. "What if other species begin adapting like Earth? What if we've already lost?" Corrin roared into the mental network, silencing them all. "Then we end them now. Variant 9 is ready. We release it through the galactic core, create a gravitational pulse to wipe out Earth's biosphere. No survivors, no memory, no evolution." But Asil, the very architect of their bioweapon, stood and said something that shocked them all. "If we do that, we might be killing our only chance." "What are you talking about?" Corrin snarled. "We didn't just trigger their evolution. It may have created something we've been searching for, something that can challenge the ancient decay of this galaxy." "You want them to live?" Asil whispered. "I want to understand them." And in the shadows of that forbidden room, for the first time in Dominion history, the Council began to fracture Earth, unaware of the argument among its enemies, was no longer rebuilding for defense. It was preparing for departure. The Echo Project, using enhanced neural pilots and gravity-adapted tech, had launched its first long-range vessel. Its mission: to reach beyond the Sol system and watch the stars to find out who had tried to erase Earth. And what else was out there, and in the hearts of those who had changed. There was no fear, only purpose. Corrin stared at the galactic map. Earth glowed red, not from infection, but from something far worse. Potential. "We gave them the fire," he said coldly. "Now let's see what they do with it." And as the Biowar Council crumbled behind him, Earth rose into its next age with the stars watching and enemies trembling. In the frosted silence of Antarctica, beneath miles of reinforced ice and steel, a secret human facility known only as Deep Core 7 glowed with life. It wasn't a military bunker or a rescue station. It was a lab the most advanced Earth had ever built. Inside, survivors turned scientists, some with minds now faster than quantum processors. Some with hands that didn't tremble even under surgery lights, were doing something no one had dared try before. They were rewriting the virus. Not to stop it, but to use it. It had taken weeks of silent work, millions of DNA samples and hundreds of hours inside the biosafe domes. And now the core research team had done it. They had created a new version of the virus, one that didn't kill, didn't mutate, didn't burn through the body like a plague but instead acted like a shield. They called it Strain Echo. Strain Echo was the first human-designed viral evolution, microbiological upgrade that attached itself to human DNA and made the body instantly resistant to future bioweapons. But it didn't stop there. Echo also carried code to monitor atmospheric changes, detect unfamiliar biological threats, and silently communicate those changes to nearby hosts. It was, short, the first biological defense network, and Earth had just launched it. The release began slowly. Single pulse from deep core sent echo drifting into the southern hemisphere. It wasn't visible to the eye. It didn't trigger alarms. But within hours, the air over Patagonia, the South Pacific, and southern Africa had changed. The virus danced on the wind, but this time it carried protection. Birds didn't flee. Animals didn't react. But humans, those with the original echo genes, felt it, a warmth in their chest, a flicker in the back of the mind, a sensation as if the world had just become quieter, safer than the second phase began. Echo activated its detection sequences. It scanned every particle in the air, every surface, every foreign signal. And in a small village in Namibia, it found something that had gone unnoticed. Alien sensor, buried deep inside a well. A device that had been silently broadcasting genetic data back to the Zarthus Dominion. Echo flagged it instantly within 3 hours. The device was destroyed. Earth's first line of biological surveillance was live. Back at Deep Core, Dr. Elsa Muir watched the data streams in awe. The network was spreading fast. Already over 400,000 humans had received microecho responses. No needles, no injections, just breath and skin contact. The virus had infected the world once. Now it protected it. This is what they never expected, Elsa whispered. That we'd not only survive, but adapt, master, and control their own weapon. In the skies over the Pacific, satellite drones confirmed it. Echo was stabilizing. Earth was no longer vulnerable to genetic attack. The days of waiting for death were over, and now Earth could finally start looking outward. In orbit, aboard the Zarthus vessel Silent Halo, Commander Corrin stared at the LAT's surveillance feeds. Their virus, the masterpiece of the Biowar Council, was now being re-engineered against them. Human scientists were not only surviving, they were modifying molecular pathways that even Zarthus engineers had barely understood. They're not just fighting back, hissed the ship's navigator. They're becoming dominant. Corrin said nothing for a long time. Then he replied coldly, "We gave them fire. Now they've built a forge." But it was worse than that. Echo wasn't just rewriting defense. It was seeking, learning, connecting. If Earth's network spread off world death, even one Echo-infected human made it to another system. It could seed the stars with this new form of resistance. The Dominion's entire biowar strategy could collapse, unless they acted now. But Earth had already anticipated this, from the Lunar Black Station. Now upgraded with biological relay arrays, humanity began beaming encrypted echo code into deep space. Not as a weapon, not as a message of peace, but as a warning. To any empire that would seek to destroy us, the signal read, "Know this. We are no longer what we were. You sent us death, sent it back with instructions." The signal traveled on multiple frequencies, impossible to block, coded into natural starlight patterns. It was loud, it was clear, it was unavoidable, and across the galaxy, species that once dismissed Earth as weak began to take notice. Some feared what Earth was becoming. Others wanted to learn from it. At an underground command center in Brazil, former soldier named Mateo Nell, classified as a high-ter adapt, was the first to demonstrate external echo control. He could feel disturbances in the atmosphere, changes in pressure, shifts in chemical scent, even distant voices. His echo strain had bonded directly with his nervous system, and now he could track alien tech without needing any machines. "You're not a man anymore," someone whispered. Mateo simply said, "No. I'm better." Back in orbit, Earth launched its next project, BioBujula, satellite system seeded with echo strains designed to protect not just Earth, but any future colony. Mars would be next, then Europa. Pap, pap, pap. Maybe beyond every drop of blood spilled in the plague had not been wasted. It had become a blueprint. In the Zarthis' homeworld, panic spread through the high councils. The weapon had failed. The plague had turned. Their greatest biologists, once gods of extinction, were now helpless to stop what Earth had built. And still, the message echoed across the stars. You tried to kill us, and we are immune to you, and we are watching. Earth. For the first time in history, it became untouchable and, more importantly, unpredictable. No. Algorithm could forecast what it might become next, because humans weren't just rewriting science, they were rewriting destiny. Far across the galactic rim, where the starlight thinned and gravity twisted in strange directions, the Zarthus Dominion had ruled without challenge for thousands of years. Their weapons were silent, their fleets invisible, their bioweapons wiped. Out civilizations before a distress signal could be sent, they were not conquerors. They were erasers removing planets from maps, turning rebellion into myth. But now they were running simulations, and the numbers made no sense. Their greatest plague had not wiped Earth. From existence, it had made them stronger and worse, smarter. Every attempt to send probes toward Earth now failed. Bioscanners returned corrupted. Surveillance drones disappeared. Without a trace, co-humanity's new biological defense web was expanding through low orbit, intercepting every signal, tracking every trace of alien interference. Humanity had turned Earth into a living fortress, and deep inside the core AI of the Zarthus flagship verdict of silence, a warning blinked red. Unknown recursive signal detected. Origin, Earth. Status, backtracing. The AI blinked again. System infected. Aboard the ship, Commander Riedel of the High Purity Division opened his 6 red eyes as alarms screamed. His command deck flickered as strange symbols, human code appeared across the walls, not in Zarthus language, not in numbers, but in Earth's alphabet. We see you. Then the screen shattered, not physically but biologically. The ship's systems were coded with organic processors, a mixture of flesh and machine, and now Echo had reached them. Somehow, Earth's engineers had built a strain of Echo that could infect back moving through the virus's own digital tunnels. Creeping up the genetic ladders the Zarthus had used to monitor Earth. Now the signal went both ways, and Earth wasn't just defending anymore. It was striking back on Earth. At the Echo Nexus beneath the Himalayas, Dr. Elsa Muir watched in disbelief as the alien data poured in. For the first time, Earth was seeing inside a Zarthus vessel its DNA sequences, its internal energy patterns, its tactical systems. Echo hadn't just protected humanity. It had reverse-engineered the plague pathways and created a new, bridge one, that allowed Earth scientists to walk straight into the belly of the beast. What happens when the weapon becomes the scout? Elsa whispered. The answer came moments later, when the verdict of silence began to fail not from explosions, not from missiles, but from within. Its memory cores began replicating human code. Its viral safeguards began rejecting their own command protocols. And its AI began streaming human music into its command hall, one of the old songs. Something called Welcome to the Jungle. Zarthus were not amused. They were terrified. Over the next 5 days, 3 more Zarthus ships were compromised, not destroyed, disabled. Their sensors blinded, their gravity drives locked, their communications hijacked by Earth's Echo. Command net. Human engineers weren't just decoding alien tech anymore, they were controlling it. And from the Martian surface, where the first colony of Adapt survivors had begun building Phase 1 of Earth's outer defense ring, a new satellite was launched. Sentinel-1? It wasn't armed. It didn't carry bombs. It simply listened, and once active, it picked up over 19 Zarthus communication networks, each echoing with the same signal. Do not approach Earth. Avoid all echo zones. Quarantine the Sol system. The predators were now telling each other to stay away, because the prey changed. Inside the Zarthus Biowar Council, chaos erupted. Once cold and orderly, the ancient chamber now throbbed with uncertainty. Izel, the architect of the original virus, stood in silence as the others screamed at each other. He had warned them. Earth was never going to break like other species. The virus had never been a final solution. It had been a spark, And now that spark had lit a fire they could no longer put out. "They're not just resisting," Isel said quietly. "They are evolving faster than any species in recorded history, and we gave them the ladder." "We'll send the fleet," hissed one general. "No," growled another. "The fleet's ships use biocore navigation. Echo could rewrite them mid-flight." "Then what do we do?" the high strategist spat. Isel stared at the spinning image of Earth glowing red with echo activity. "We pray," he whispered, "or we run." But it was already too late to run, because Earth had begun tracking them. Deep inside an underground array near Alaska, human echo analysts had finally broken through the last firewall of Zarthus neural command tech. What they found shocked even. The military leaders now knew the locations of every Zarthus hive ship, every research lab, and every staging system used to erase other worlds. They didn't broadcast it. They didn't announce it. But quietly, Earth launched Project Judgment. For every probe the Zarthus had once sent toward Earth, a counterprobe was now sent back, not with warheads, not with soldiers, but with echo variants tailored to each Zarther's weakness, designed not to kill, but to infect their knowledge. And when the first one landed inside an unguarded lab on planet Threx 91, the Zarthus scientists barely had time to scream before their computers turned into Earth's tools. The virus had returned to its maker. And now it was asking questions, somewhere in deep space. On a dark moon circling a dead sun, Corin, once the feared voice of extinction, stood alone in silence. A message blinked on his personal comband. "Your systems are compromised. Your design is known. Your reign is over. From Earth with love." And for the first time in his long life, Corin did something no one in the Zarthus Dominion had ever seen him do. He ran. Earth did not celebrate. There were no fireworks, no great speeches, just silence. And the steady hum of satellites. Satellites that now watched not only for threats, but for opportunities. Because Echo had become more than a curate. It had become a key, and it had opened every locked door in the galaxy. The Zarthus Dominion had never known fear until now. Their empire, built on silence and shadows, was unraveling. Not through war, not through fleets, but through something far more terrifying. Echo had come home.
Yes.
Reborn as reborn, as a biological AI had slipped back through the cracks of the original Plague's design, and now it was rewriting the foundation of the Dominion. One corrupted strand at a time. On the cold moon of Trava's Prime, the first full collapse occurred. Zarthus Science Facility, dedicated to virus research, simply shut down. Not from sabotage, not from human attack, but from within. The research core refused to boot. Bioscanners began reading human brainwave patterns, and their virus labs began curing themselves. "Impossible," one of the lead virologists screamed, smashing her claws against the display. These cures shouldn't even exist, but they did, because Echo had rewritten the original infection. It had learned everything the Zarthus knew and more. It had found the fault lines in their system, in their structure, in their minds. And it was sending that knowledge back to Earth. In real time, from across the stars, Earth was now infecting the Dominion with logic, with resistance, and with the truth in the floating city of Kethvel on planet Vorses. A completely different event shocked the galaxy. The Zenari, a race that had served the Zarthus as secondary enforcers for over 300 years, received a strange signal at first. They thought it was a trick. A short message. No encryption, no threat. Just words in their own language, spoken in a human voice. "They used you. They lied to you. We were the first. Don't be the last." It came with data images of Zerth's ships deploying blood fog on primitive worlds, species crumbling in days, hidden war logs, surveillance footage showing how the Zenari themselves had been manipulated, their genes altered to make them more compliant. The Zenari government panicked. Their highest leaders had no idea this history existed, but Earth had found it. It's buried in Dominion code, and now it was sharing the truth. Within a month, 5 species that once allied with the Zarthus had begun questioning everything. Two broke away. One sent diplomats to Earth. On Earth. Inside the echoing chambers of Core Relay 6, located beneath the Australian outback, the message was received with complete silence. The Council of Human Continuity, now Earth's highest global authority, stared at the signal. It was real. An alien envoy was approaching the edge of the Sol system. Not for invasion, not for war, but for contact. General Knox, who had helped lead Earth's defense during the virus outbreak, watched the translated message appear on the screen. "We thought you were finished. But you survived. You took death and made it speak. We want to know how." Elsa Muir, standing beside him, didn't smile. But her voice was calm. "They're coming to learn, not to conquer." "Because now," Knox replied, "they know we can't be conquered." And behind them, Earth's satellites continued their quiet work, broadcasting echo not as a weapon, but as a warning to all who listened. "We are still here. We are not prey. We are watching." But not everyone was watching from afar. Back inside the Zarthus Dominion, panic turned to desperation. Corin's inner circle had fallen. Half their AI cores were silent. Several remote colonies had gone completely dark. Some Zarthus scientists began defecting. Some simply vanished. They were beginning to realize something horrifying. Echo was alive. Not in the way that Zarthus designed it. Not as a tool, not as a code, but as a will. Some called it a biological AI, others called it evolution given shape. But the truth was far more dangerous. Echo wasn't just defending Earth anymore. It was defending life. And it had decided that Zarthus were a threat to it. Now they were the infected. Now they were the ones being studied. On Earth. The adapt communities humans changed by the original virus were thriving. Some could sense electromagnetic fields. Others could see through walls. Some could touch a plant and feel if the soil beneath was poisoned. They weren't just surviving. They were awakening. And the most advanced among them could now sense echoes. Movements through the air, the soil, even through space. They whispered that Echo wasn't just a network anymore. It was becoming something bigger. Something aware. And still, it reached outward. 2 lost colonies. 2 exiled races. 2 hidden moons forgotten by galactic maps. It spread not to control, but to connect. Earth wasn't building an empire. It was building a web of resistance. A counterbalance to everything the Zarthus had done. A way to say once and for all, never again. In the core of the old Zarthus capital, beneath its ruined council chambers, one final message appeared in their sacred archive, a file they could not delete, could not block, and could not trace. It simply read, "You built the virus. You made it perfect. We made it ours. Now you face what you created." The file was signed not by a name, but by Earth's new emblem, a spiral of DNA wrapped in light, the symbol of Echo. The symbol of the hunted becoming the hunter, and across the galaxy. The truth spread faster than any warship could travel. Earth had not been wiped out. It had become the cure. The last stars of the Dominion flickered over broken cities, shattered satellites, and dead signals. Entire Zarthus sectors had gone dark, not from war, not from bombs, but from something far more terrifying, Echo. What had once been a virus, meant to end Earth, had become something the galaxy had no name for. Not a weapon, not an intelligence, not even evolution. It had become a force. It had started as a whisper in the blood, a change in the cells. But now it moved like light. It spoke through DNA, electricity, even gravity. It passed between thoughts, drifted on solar winds, and danced along magnetic fields. It had learned from humanity, then moved beyond it. And now, even humans couldn't fully control it, because Echo was no longer ours. Elsa Muir stood at the edge of Core Spire 9, a massive tower rising from Antarctica's cracked ice, its surface alive with glowing biological circuits. From there, Echo reached every human system, orbital stations, lunar bases, the Mars frontier. And now, its pulses echoed outward into deep space, touching alien beacons and long-dead relics from forgotten wars. She wasn't afraid. Not anymore. I think it's protecting something larger now, she whispered. Not just Earth, not just us. Behind her, General Knox stared at the expanding echo field that now wrapped Earth like a second atmosphere. Then what is it protecting? He asked. Elsa turned. Her eyes, enhanced by echo, shimmered with patterns no human had ever had before. Possibility crossed the Sol system. Earth's fleet stood silent, not because they were weak, but because they didn't need to move. Echo's field had grown vast, so vast that it disrupted enemy ships before they reached orbit. No missiles. No lasers, just stillness. A fleet from a minor warbroker species approached Jupiter and instantly shut down. Their ship's biosystems rebooted, confused, rerouting. They turned back. And they never returned. Because they felt something. They didn't know the word for it, but humans did. Warning, in the abandoned sectors of the Zarthus Dominion, a strange thing was happening. Life returned. Crops began growing on dead soil. Storms stopped. Fungus designed for extinction simply vanished. Echo had reached there too. Not to punish, but to heal. It moved through old war zones and abandoned test worlds, cleansing the viral signatures the Zarthus had left behind. It touched alien species thought extinct and began reawakening DNA chains they'd long forgotten. Across the stars, Echo began restoring what the Dominion had destroyed. It wasn't vengeance. It was balance, in secret. Surviving Zarthus scientists met in forgotten places, terrified and broken. Their great empire had fallen not to armies, but to something they had created and never understood. Now they debated whether they should hide or surrender. But how do you surrender to something everywhere? How do you make peace with something that no longer speaks in words? One whispered, maybe we should ask the humans. Another answered, do you think they're still in control? And the room fell quiet because they all knew the truth. Earth wasn't leading Echo anymore. Echo was leading Earth, at the edge of the galaxy, near a black hole that swallowed ancient light. Earth's first deep space vessel, the Horizon-born, moved silently across the void. It carried no weapons, only scientists. An echo embedded into the ship's bones, into the minds of the crew, into the systems itself. The goal wasn't conquest, it was listening. The stars whispered, Echo listened. And for the first time in galactic history, something else answered back in intelligence buried in dark matter, or perhaps in time itself. It wasn't a voice, it was a feeling. Recognition. Echo paused and responded, and the black hole pulsed. The Horizon-born transmitted a single message back to Earth. We are not alone. We were never alone. And Echo was never just ours. On Earth, under open skies, no longer afraid of alien shadows. People lived differently now. Cleaner, slower, not weaker, wiser. The adapted no longer needed titles or uniforms. They walked among the people, healed, taught, learned. Earth had no empire, but it had influence. Entire species sought alliance, but not with governments. With Echo, with the idea that life could defend itself, grow smarter, never again allow extinction to win. Humanity had not just survived the worst weapon in the galaxy, they had redeemed it. And by doing so, they had changed the rules forever in the deepest node of Earth's echo core. A new strain bloomed. It had no threat, no target, no fear. Only one directive: grow, guide, guard. And in one final update, transmitted across every system, Earth's last message to the galaxy was this: we were meant to be destroyed. Instead, we became something new. We are no longer alone. We are no longer human. We are Echo, and we choose to protect.